Molly from Wild Olive, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how I went about stitching my Hello Summer embroidery pattern. I'll walk you through the stitches that I used and how to put it all together so you can make one just like this. So for this project I recommend starting with a 6-inch embroidery hoop. You can use a larger one, but it needs to be at least 6 inches. I'm using an organic cotton quilting fabric. Again, you can use whatever your favorite fabric is for embroidery. And we'll just get this in the hoop. I like to make sure that the fabric is pretty tight without being stretched or distorted. That's good. And for the pattern, this pattern is available in my Etsy shop, and the link to that will be down below in the description. I printed the pattern on a water-soluble stabilizer. It makes it super easy to get your pattern on your fabric right away without a lot of tracing. And I usually like to use the backing material, and I rub that on the back of the fabric. That way my fingers aren't stretching the fabric any. It's really smooth, so that helps. And right there in an instant, the hoop is ready to get started with the stitching. Okay, so we're going to be using 3 strands for almost everything in this pattern. There's just 2 spots that are different. We'll get to those a little bit later. So we're going to start out here with the yellow, and I threaded my needle, and then I usually start with a knot, especially if I'm using an odd number of strands. And I'm going to get started on the sun. There's a couple holes in this because I originally thought that I might do this with 6 strands, and that just didn't work out. So that's fine. The holes are going to be covered in this anyway. Normally I would rub those away so that they don't show, but it's not going to matter. Okay, so I do my chain stitch as a reverse chain stitch. And so I usually start out with a small tacking stitch, and sometimes I just slide my first stitch under it before it's tighter because it's easier that way. So slide the needle under, and then you go back down in the hole where you came up. So that makes 1 chain stitch, and come up again. Using the eye end of the needle is often easier because then you don't catch the material, you don't catch the thread with the point of the needle. So that just makes things go a little bit smoother. But I don't even always do that consistently because it's all about what is working in the moment. I usually do this pretty casually. I make it work however I need it to work in the moment. So I'm just going to continue making my way around the circle part of the sun with chain stitch, and then we'll do the rays of the sun next. Okay, so for these I have been going and working back and forth. Each one is just a straight stitch, but I've been sliding the working thread under the center circle as I go around. That way there's not lines of thread stretched between each one of these, especially at the outside. So it's just a little bit cleaner on the back. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's one of those small things that you can do just to keep your work looking nice and tidy. It's also helpful, I think, to not have stretches of thread behind. Not only that might show through the fabric, but they could even get caught on things. All right. So I'm just gonna end off this piece of thread with a knot again, because in this case it's just fine to use a knot. And I usually hold it in place tight to the fabric so that it's really nice and secure. And snip off the extra thread. There we go. Okay, so now I've been working on the leaves of the palm tree here. And for this, all of the leaves are outlined, again, 3 strands and backstitch. And there's some areas where there's really short stitches that are kind of like the little notches that you can see coming in on the sides of the leaves, and then the regular outline part. And there's also these little lines you see that go from the outside of the leaf to the center. So what I'm doing is working my way around the outline, but then when I come to those other lines, I'm working them as I go. So they're basically straight stitches, also kind of like backstitch. So just filling those in a little bit as I go. And then after I make my way around the edge of the palm leaf, then I'll go back in and stitch the center line of the palm leaf. All right, so now I'm going to stitch the teeny tiny coconuts on the palm tree. And for this, I've switched to a brighter green. This is DMC 472. All of the colors for this are included in the pattern, so you can see exactly which colors I used. Of course, you can always switch to something else. All right, so I've got my needle threaded with 3 strands again, and start with a knot again. And now these are, again, keeping this simple, these are backstitch. So I'm just going to work around the coconuts. Got to keep the stitches not too large for this so that you get a nice curve. And then the faces on these, they have these really gleeful squinting faces that I'll come back to afterwards. They're a little different than some of the faces that I use, but they'll just be like backstitch and scallop stitch for those smiles. Okay, so now the palm tree is finished. I used chain stitch for the trunk. I also used chain stitch to go around the swimming pool, and I used scallop stitch for the waves of water in the pool. And now I'm working on the first little beach hut. This is just basic backstitch again. And I'm using the lines of like the siding that are on the beach huts as a guide for how long I'm making the stitches. So that way everything will line up. So each little horizontal line, the ends of those are where I'm making these stitches. And I'm starting with the one side here. Then I'll move to the siding lines. So now I'm just going back across on each one of these, and these are short little stitches, and I'm working back and forth from side to side on these. The entire beach hut, every single one of these is just all backstitch, so it makes it really simple to follow along. The difference is in each one of these has different colors to make them each unique. And of course, they've got different symbols that you can see on each one as well. So with the huts all outlined. Now I'm just finishing up these doors. Again, all backstitch and still using those horizontal lines as a guide for the stitch length as much as you can. Like on the top curves, that doesn't work as well, but it works for this part of them. And if you look closely, you can see on the roofs that I've finished, still have one more to go, but on the roofs that I've done, you can see those stitches are a little bit longer than the ones that are along the sides of the beach huts. And again, that's one of those ways that, one of the reasons that I love Backstitch so much is that even though it's so simple, small changes like the stitch length can really change up its appearance. Like I actually think that the way that it looks on the roofs of these huts looks so different than how Backstitch looks on, say, the outline of the palm tree leaves. And that really, I think that's, seeing that difference is one of the reasons that I think it's such a good choice. All right, so pretty much out of thread for this round, so I'm just gonna tie this off here real quick. And after I knot it, I often will just weave it through a few stitches just to secure the tail. Makes it extra secure. All right, so for these tiny little details on the fronts of the huts, these ones I'm only using one strand, and that's because they really are so tiny, especially the anchor in the middle. In the pattern for this, I actually have, there's two different sizes included, and I'm stitching the smaller of the two sizes here. And so for this, it's really important that you only use one strand. If you're doing the larger size, it fits in an 8-inch hoop, then you probably could do 2 or 3 strands if you really wanted to. But once again, one strand is still enough to make these designs stand out. And it's just backstitch going around all the little icons. All right, more filling in this line along. It's kind of like the line of the pavement or boardwalk, or however you want to view this. And so I'm doing chain stitch for this. Again, back to just doing 3 strands. And it's chain stitch all the way across, and then you get to this section where I am, and there's not a lot of space here, so I'm able to fit 3 stitches here. It's like a very tiny starting tacking stitch, and then 3 stitches. Finish this one up. And then we've got this pool chair, beach chair, deck chair. And I'm actually going to jump across this space because it'll get stitched over, the stitch will be secured on the back, and just make one single chain stitch. So it's technically a detached chain, but I'm still working it in the same direction that I did all the rest of the chain stitches so that it looks consistent. In theory, I could make this like a detached chain that's like a lazy daisy. I could have started at the end of the line, made the loop, and then tacked it down, but I just decided to go ahead and form it in the exact same way that I did the rest of the chain stitch along this line. So just one lone stitch there. All right, so now the legs of this chair are also in white, and they are just backstitch. So I went ahead, and I'm sort of jumping a little bit, but it'll be okay. They've got a little bit of a curve to them, so I'm just going to do these 2 little back stitches, and that should have enough of a curve look to them. And then I'm going to need to end this off before jumping to the other legs. Okay, so I'm actually finished stitching at this point, and you know, all of the specific stitches are listed in the pattern. Now it's time for soaking this so that all of that water-soluble stabilizer comes off. That one other place where there was a different number of strands is the word summer, and that's 6 strands. Hello was in 3 strands, so the only thing is 6 strands for the word summer, 1 strand for the little icons. As you can see, there's like little bubbles coming up, and that's this working and coming off or starting to dissolve. And then if you just kind of agitate it a little bit, rub it, it comes off the rest of the way. Okay, so I finished that soaking. I ironed it on the back side I put it on a towel face down, ironed the back, so it's nice and ready to go into this embroidery hoop. And the Hello Summer design is completely finished, ready for framing or turning into another project. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video and would like more super cute stitching patterns and exclusive video content, be sure to check out my coffee clatch at the link in the description.